Awesome. Hey guys, good to be here. You're wondering why are you here tonight? Where's Brandon? Do you know where Brandon is? You don't know where he is? Brandon is at home with his wife because Jenna has a birthday tonight. And Brandon was like, no, I got to go to youth group. I got to go junior high life. They're all expecting me. Like, no, dude, she's your wife. Go home and kiss her. Do something we don't want to know about. Just go celebrate. Wait, oh, gross. Sorry, I just talked about kissing. We're not there yet. Okay. But anyway, so I told Brandon, take it off. Don't worry. I'm here. I'm Jeff. I'm the new guy. I will come and hang out with junior hires. I have done this before. I was a youth pastor for 8 years, and I started out as a youth pastor here at Atascadero Bible Church. And I'm so old that I'm embarrassed to say that I was a youth pastor here before anyone here in this room was born, except maybe Pope himself. All right? But then the last 10 years, I've been living in Africa, and I've got a lot of crazy stories from Africa to tell you some other time. All right? But you guys have been talking about going through a series called For the Win, right? Is that right? Been going through a series For the Win, talking about character. Brandon gave me a topic, and the topic was wisdom. And Brandon thought I would be great at talking about wisdom because I started a university in Africa. But the amazing thing about starting a university in Africa is I'm not that smart. And so I want to prove to you right now how I'm really not that smart. Think for a minute about the most foolish thing you have ever done. Are you thinking about it? Like the dumbest thing you have ever done in your entire life. Are you ready? Because I'm going to tell you mine. All right? Are you ready for this? Okay, so I didn't like being sick when I was a kid because I liked going to school because I could see all my friends, right? And so every once in a while you get sick, but you really wish you were sick with one of your friends. Well, I used to get pink eye. You guys ever get pink eye? I don't think pink eye and lice should be considered sicknesses. You know, lice just looks like dandruff anyway, and pink eye just looks like eye boogers. So I didn't really think that those are serious sicknesses, but if you have pink eye or lice, they don't let you come to school. So I had this great idea. I could really tell that I was getting pink eye, and I knew pink eye is very contagious. So I talked to my friend Dan, and I was like, hey, you want to be sick tomorrow? He's like, yeah, that'd be cool. We could be sick together. I said, yeah, we could be sick buddies. So I stuck my finger in my eye. I got my eye boogies, and I stuck it in his eye. And it was perfect. The next morning, I woke up, and my mom's like, you have pink eye. You can't go to school. So I called my friend Dan. I said, hey, are you at home? He's like, yeah, I got pink eye. I can't go to school either. It's like, yes, this is awesome. Okay, check it off. Plan number 1 was a success. Now, back then it was one of these El Nino years like we're having right now, so the rain was really high. Have you guys seen Atascadero Creek today? Yeah. Have you seen it? How the water is so high? Now, when you're looking at that creek, what is the one thing you want to do right now? Jump in it. Okay, so my mom and dad had gone to Costco, and they'd bought this inflatable raft, this 2-man raft. And so I was like, and I was 16 years old. My mom was working at a doctor's office, so she wasn't home. So I'm home alone, sick. What do? I said, Dan, I'm going to get the raft. I'll come out to your house because he lived out in Templeton and Hidden Valley. I said, we could take the raft all the way into like the Salinas River. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like Huck Finn, wouldn't that be so cool? He's like, oh, that is awesome. So I drove out to his house and we pumped up the raft, and the raft had a hole in it. So what do? Duct tape, right? You just duct tape it up. So we duct taped the raft up, and then, again, this is the most foolish thing I've ever done, all right? So you ready for this? I forgot the oars, for the raft. And these creeks here in Atascadero and Templeton, they have all these trees that are falling down and little things that are sticking up. So I was like, how are we going to paddle around it? So I was like, oh, what if we took your ping pong paddles and we duct taped them to 2 tent poles, and then we used the tent pole and the ping pong paddle to go down the creek. Now, it was an awesome idea, wasn't it? Was this epic idea? This is sounding really smart, okay? Now, when I was a kid, the weather lady Sharon Graves on KSBY would always say, now stay away from the moving water because it's very dangerous. You could get trapped in the current and die. And I was like, oh, this is a death-defying raft trip. This is so awesome. I thought her warning was actually encouraging me to go on this raft trip. So we get in the raft, and we are going down, and I was a bit small, but my friend was a bit big, so it worked out all right. And we're going down there, and we're going around these trees, and we're going around, and, we keep getting flipped over and knocked in, and we think that, okay, this is okay. This is all right, and we're doing okay. All of a sudden, we get to this, like, the creek gets really narrow, and all of a sudden, the water is getting higher, and we're going faster, and I'm thinking, oh, man, this is awesome. Except we go around a corner, and there's a problem. There's a log going across the creek. And so I'm kind of thinking in my head, okay, we're going so fast that when we get to this log, the raft is going to go up in the air, and we're going to fly over this tree, and we'll be okay, right? Because that's what's going to happen. That's how it happens in the movies. So I said, hey, Dan, paddle just a little faster. Okay, so we are just going. And the log is right there, and I'm seeing it. We're just going to go flying over the top, and it's going to be the most epic rafting ride ever. But instead, we kind of hit the nose of the raft in the log. And just as Sharon Grave, the weather lady, said, we went underneath the logs, and attached to logs are what? Branches. And when you got the water pushing against you as hard as it can and you get thrown to the branches, what happens? You get stuck. Well, I get thrown underneath. My boots go flying off. Whatever I had in my pockets is gone. And I'm stuck in all these branches. And I do what any hero of the story would do, right? I totally panicked. I am like freaking out, like you know the scary breathe, like where you're kind of cry breathing, and I'm underneath the water, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm only 16 and I've never had a girlfriend. Like, this is so lame. I'm gonna die, right? And I was probably under the water for about 48 hours, but it was probably more like 16 seconds. But it felt like 48 hours because I was down there for so long and I couldn't breathe. And I'm down there. It's more than 16 seconds. It was a minute or two. I'm under the water, and finally, like, I don't know what it was, but like I just popped out. Like, God must have just said, "You are such an idiot, but I want you to live a little longer. So here's a little boost for you today." And I come flying out of the water, and my friend Dan is just sitting there on the side of the creek, and he's like almost tearing up. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I was trying to figure out how to tell your mom you were dead." I'm like, I know, I was thinking the same thing. Guys, that's the most foolish thing I have ever done. I could honestly tell you, okay, no, there's dumber things I've done, but that's the one you're going to get tonight, okay? We're talking about wisdom, going for the win. We're going for the win, and wisdom is how we're going to go for the win, but the opposite of wisdom is foolishness, all right? And so I want to take a quick look through Proverbs tonight and just take a look at what does it mean to be a fool? What are the 3 descriptions of a fool, and how can we be wise? Are you with me? 3 descriptions of a fool, and how can we be wise? All right? The first thing that it says about a fool in the book of Proverbs, Proverbs 15, verse 5, it says, "A fool rejects his father's discipline, but he who regards discipline is wise." All right? A fool hates their parents' discipline. A fool rejects his father's wisdom. I know, so lame. To tell you the truth, I got to be honest. I'm a dad, and I have a son in this room. I will not embarrass him, all right? I will not tell you where he is, but I am a father, and so when a parent reads this verse, you're like, oh, gosh, how lame. Like a junior high parent came in here, and he's saying that a fool rejects our parents' wisdom, right? But let me tell you something about your mom and dad, all right? Can I tell you something about your mom and dad? This is just a trick that you need to know as kids. Your mom and dad make mistakes all the time. They say dumb things every once in a while. They say mean things that hurt your feeling. But the real truth about your mom and dad is they love you so much, they just don't want you to do the same foolish things they did, all right? Every time I think about disciplining my sons, the only thing I'm thinking is, oh, I don't want him to do that stupid thing because I did it and the results were so bad, okay? A fool rejects discipline, all right? A fool, when they're disciplined, they say, oh, this is so dumb, this is so lame, I can't believe I'm grounded, I can't believe that they took my phone away, I can't believe that they're not going to let me go to that party. Now, a fool rejects discipline, but a wise person receives discipline and they're like, oh, you know what? You're probably saving me from something bigger, right? Like my dad used to always tell me, Jeff, you really got to drive slower. I'm like, no, I can control the car. It's okay. I'm okay. Dad, I'm all right at driving. And he'd always say, no, Jeff, you really need to drive slower. And he'd always tell me this over and over again. I didn't listen to it. Kid you not, I bought a car when I was 18 years old. 3 weeks later, what did I do? I drove it right in the back of an SUV. And I was like, oh, way to go, stud. And when I was hitting that car and the front of my truck was shattered, I was thinking, I'm pretty sure my dad told me to drive slower, right? A fool rejects what? What does a fool reject? Discipline. All right. The second thing about a fool is that a fool does not control their tongue. How many times have you said something really mean and you could just see someone's face getting hurt? Like, like your friend walks up and they're like, hey, how does this dress look on me? And you're like, oh, it makes you look a little fatter than yesterday. Even if it's true, you don't say that, right? A fool doesn't control their tongue. A fool doesn't think about what they're saying. Proverbs 12, verse 23 says, a fool's heart bursts out folly. A fool doesn't think before they speak, all right? Have you ever had that moment where you're just like, I can't believe I said that to my parents. They're going to be so mad at me, right? A fool doesn't control their tongue. So what does a wise person do? A wise person thinks before they speak, all right? Abraham Lincoln. You ever heard of Abraham Lincoln? President with a big old beard. He said this. He said, better to be thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and to prove everyone that you are. He said it's better for people to think you're a fool than to open your mouth and prove you're a fool. All right? A fool doesn't control their tongue. Third thing that it says about fools in the book of Proverbs, Proverbs 13, verse 20, it says, walk with the wise and become wise, for the companion of fools suffers harm. A fool, third thing about a fool hangs out with fools. You know those kids who are always getting in trouble? You know, the fools who every time a parent or a teacher or a coach tells them what to do and they don't do it, those people are called fools. Don't hang out with them. Because when you're a fool, what happens is you get caught doing the things that they're doing. And you don't want to suffer for a fool. It says it's actually better to meet a bear who's been robbed of her cubs than a fool in its folly. Have you ever seen an animal separated from its babies? Have you ever seen that? Okay, I'm going to give you one Africa story, okay? I was in Africa. I have one of these big white Land Cruiser, and I'm on a safari. And I'm at the gate of the safari park. We're checking in the rangers, and I see my friend Dave is up ahead, and he's in a car a little smaller than mine, and I was like, oh, man, I'm totally just going to buzz around and mess with him, because it's dirt roads. I was going to send a cloud of dust in front of him. And so I see Dave parked on the side of the road, and I don't even know why Dave is parked on the side of the road, but I just think to myself that, oh, this is okay. I just buzz around him. So I drive as fast as I can around Dave, and I just spin out. And all of a sudden I look and there's elephants on this side of me that's really big. And there's 4 baby elephants on this side of me. And I basically had just spun my tires out right in the middle of mama elephant and her baby elephants. Do you know what happened? I had a stampede of elephants chase me. And I kid you not, I had to drive so fast. And the whole time, my wife is just telling me, you're so dumb. I'm like, I know, I am so dumb. The elephant's really fast, and I'm driving it. Finally, the elephant gave up on me, all right? He says, a fool, it's better to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than to be with a fool. It's better to upset an elephant and separate it from its babies than to hang out with fools, all right? So 3 things about our fools. A fool hates discipline. A fool can't control their tongue, and a fool hangs out with fools. So what do we need to do to be wise? All right? There's only one thing you need to do to be wise in this life, right? Only thing you got to remember tonight. You can remember the stories if you want, but here's what we have to do to be wise. Proverbs 9, verse 10 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All right, we can put that up on the screen. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of the wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Now, does this mean to be afraid of God? Is that what he's telling us to do? Do you guys understand what it means, the fear of the Lord, to fear someone? It's like this idea of like respect or like, I can't believe I'm in their presence. All right? So I don't know what you guys are into. If you're into Taylor Swift, I kind of am too, so I had to sit down when we talked about Taylor Swift. But what I'm really into is baseball. Have you guys ever heard of baseball? You know that sport? You guys ever heard of the New York Yankees? You guys know the New York Yankees? All right. So last year, their second baseman, Stephen Drew, is a friend of mine. And so Stephen Drew called me up. He said, hey, do you want to come fly to New York, hang out with me for the weekend, and I'll take you to the game, and we'll go in the clubhouse, and you can meet all the players. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? So I flew to New York. My voice just cracked. Junior high times. I flew to New York. I'm hanging out in this $1 million penthouse with his family and everything, and we get to go to the game, and during the game, I'm sitting there in one of those hotel suite boxes that are in Yankee Stadium, and I'm in there. CeCe Sabathia's wife is there, and Chase Henley's wife, like all these famous wives and girlfriends are there with the players, and I'm just like so into the game. And afterwards, they take us downstairs to the clubhouse, and we're standing in the door, and I'm like, oh my gosh, here comes Joe Girardi. He won the World Series, but like behind Joe Girardi, out comes like the best home run hitter of my lifetime, Alex Rodriguez. Do you guys know who Alex Rodriguez is? A-Rod, all right? He dated Madonna. Madonna was the Taylor Swift when I was a kid, okay? I mean, he's dating Madonna. He's like the greatest home run hitter, like, of my generation. He's like stud of a guy, you know, one of the, like, the best looking guys in the world. He comes out, and I seriously lost it. Like, like when you're in such awe of someone, like you become acutely aware of how you're standing. You're like, oh, should I stand like this, or should I stand like this, or should I like be like this, or And I'm like, how's my bald spot looking? Like, is it looking okay? And I'm thinking like, oh gosh, he's kind of ripped. I'm like sucking in and like, does this look cool standing like this? I mean, I was so in awe of him. I'm like, oh my gosh, Alex Rodriguez is looking at me. Wow. Guys, that's what it means to fear, okay? To be in awe of God, all right? The fear of the Lord is this like idea of like, oh my gosh, God is watching me right now, and he sees what I'm saying, and he sees how I'm acting, and he sees how I respond to my parents, and he sees how I respond to my coaches and my teachers, and oh my gosh, God is so amazing that I want him to be pleased with what he sees right now. That's what it means to fear God. The fear of the Lord is like, God is bigger than any rock star. God is greater than any athlete. God is more famous than any politician. God is like the most amazing person, the most amazing being in the world. And wisdom is living as if he's watching you. Wisdom is saying, oh my gosh, I am in God's presence. He sees me right now. He hears what I'm saying. He sees what I'm doing. And oh my gosh, when God looks at me, I just want him to be pleased. That's what it means to fear the Lord. And if you guys could learn anything right now, is that, to be honest, it doesn't matter what anyone here in this room thinks of you. When I was in junior high, I cared so much about what I weared and how I looked, and what I weared, how my vocabulary was so awesome. I cared about all of those things. I was so self-conscious of what everyone else thought about me. Guys, I was a nerd. There was nothing I could do about that. But you know what? All those people in junior high and what they thought of me, they're not thinking about me today. What they thought of me doesn't matter. But know what matters is what God thinks of me. And when God looks down on me, what does he see? And that's where wisdom comes from. Wisdom is the idea that God is watching. And I want him to be so pleased with what he sees that he looks down and he says, hey, you know that nerd right there? You know Jeff? That nerd's mine. That's my son. I sent my son, Jesus Christ, to die for him because I love him so much. I want God to look down on me and be pleased. That's where wisdom starts. If you live every day like that, people will just look at you like, man, you are so wise. Wouldn't that be great? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pray for you guys. You're going to go to your hub groups, and the first thing that you're going to have to tell your hub group leader is the most foolish thing that you've ever done. Okay? So I want to pray that the most foolish thing you've ever done is the worst thing that you've ever done, and from this point on, you guys are just the wisest people in the world. So I'm going to pray for you. Here we go. God, I just pray that every student in this room right now would just know and understand how much you love them. And Lord, I pray that they would understand that when you are looking down on them, you are not looking down to condemn them. You're not looking down to reject them. You're not looking down to tell them what's wrong with them. But Lord, when you look down on us, you look down on us with love. And Father, we are so grateful for your love for us. We're so grateful for your Son, Jesus Christ, coming to die for us. And Lord, I pray that we live each day knowing and believing that you're looking at us and that our aim is to one day hear, well done, great job. Way to go. And so, Lord, fill us up with wisdom tonight. It's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, guys. Have a great time with your hubs.